What if a complete stranger could tell you things about your deceased mother that only you should know? What if someone claimed to receive messages from beyond, and those messages contained secrets you'd never shared with anyone? Ellen DeGeneres was about to face exactly that impossible situation, because sometimes the line between skepticism and hope becomes blurred when someone offers you the one thing you want most, one more conversation with someone you've lost forever. The studio lights glowed warmly as cameras rolled on what appeared to be another routine interview. Ellen was relaxed, the audience was attentive, and her guests seemed ready to share what everyone expected would be an interesting discussion about intuition and spiritual beliefs. "I know this might sound strange," her guest would soon say, her voice taking on an otherworldly quality, "but I'm receiving very strong energy from someone who passed, someone very close to you, Ellen." And in that moment, Ellen would realize she was about to be challenged in ways she never expected, forced to choose between her rational mind and her grieving heart. Because sometimes the most profound moments happen when science meets soul and logic meets longing. Ellen DeGeneres had interviewed thousands of guests over her decades-long career, from celebrities sharing personal stories to experts discussing everything from science to spirituality, but nothing could have prepared her for the afternoon, when what seemed like a routine conversation about intuition and psychic abilities would evolve into one of the most emotionally complex and personally challenging moments of her hosting experience. What started as skeptical curiosity became an intimate encounter with grief, memory, and the desperate human desire to connect with loved ones beyond death. It was a serene Monday afternoon at the Ellen Studios, and the atmosphere was contemplative, as they prepared for what was scheduled to be a thoughtful episode exploring different perspectives on intuition, spirituality, and unexplained phenomena. Ellen, wearing a soft periwinkle blazer over cream-colored pants, was looking forward to interviewing Dr. Marissa Temple, a 42-year-old woman who claimed to possess psychic abilities and had written a book about her experiences communicating with deceased spirits. Dr. Temple's background was intriguing and somewhat credible. She held a PhD in psychology from Stanford, had worked as a grief counselor for over a decade, and claimed that her psychic abilities had emerged after a near-death experience during a serious illness 5 years earlier. Unlike many self-proclaimed psychics who seemed focused on entertainment or profit, Dr. Temple worked primarily with families seeking closure after losing loved ones, often donating her services to hospices and grief support groups. "Our next guest has an unusual combination of credentials," Ellen announced to the curious studio audience. "She's a licensed psychologist who also claims to communicate with people who have passed away. Whether you believe in psychic abilities or not, her work with grieving families has helped countless people find peace. Please welcome Dr. Marissa Temple." The audience offered polite, somewhat reserved applause as Dr. Temple walked onto the stage with graceful, measured steps. She was an elegant woman with silver-streaked dark hair pulled back in a simple bun, wearing a flowing navy dress that gave her an ethereal quality. What struck Ellen most was the intensity and kindness in her eyes, not the dramatic showmanship of a television psychic, but the gentle presence of someone accustomed to sitting with people in pain. "Dr. Temple, welcome to the show," Ellen said warmly as they embraced briefly. "Thank you for having me, Ellen. I know this topic can be controversial and I appreciate your openness to exploring it, Doctor," Temple replied, her voice carrying a soothing quality that suggested years of comforting grieving people. "Let's start with the obvious question. Do you really believe you can communicate with deceased people?" Dr. Temple smiled gently. "Ellen, I understand why people are skeptical. 5 years ago I would have been skeptical too, but my experiences since my near-death episode have been so consistent and specific that I can't dismiss them as imagination or wishful thinking." Ellen leaned forward with genuine curiosity. "Tell us about your near-death experience." "I had a severe allergic reaction during surgery that caused my heart to stop for nearly 4 minutes, Dr. Temple explained. During that time, I had what I can only describe as a profound spiritual experience. When I recovered, I began receiving what I believed were messages from deceased individuals, not in voices or visions, but as sudden, clear knowledge about people I'd never met. And you decided to use this ability to help families? Initially, I was terrified and confused by these experiences. But when I mentioned some of the information I was receiving to a colleague who had lost her father, the details were so accurate and comforting to her that I realized this might be a gift meant to help people heal. Ellen maintained her characteristic blend of curiosity and healthy skepticism. Dr. Temple, as a psychologist, how do you reconcile your scientific training with belief in psychic phenomena? That's a question I grapple with every day, Dr. Temple admitted. I can't explain how this works scientifically, but I've seen too many families find peace and closure through these connections to dismiss the experience as purely psychological. Ellen was genuinely interested in the philosophical implications of Dr. Temple's claims. What's the most compelling evidence you have that these communications are real? Dr. Temple considered the question carefully. Usually it's the specificity of information that convinces people. I'll receive details about inside family jokes, childhood nicknames, or private conversations that only the deceased person and their loved one would know. As Dr. Temple spoke, Ellen noticed her expression beginning to change. The psychologist's eyes seemed to lose focus slightly, and she tilted her head as if listening to something only she could hear. Ellen, Dr. Temple said softly, her voice taking on a different quality. I hope you don't mind, but I'm receiving very strong energy right now. Someone is trying to communicate, someone very important to you. Ellen felt a familiar chill of skepticism mixed with unexpected vulnerability. Dr. Temple, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I'm pretty open about my life. It wouldn't be hard for someone to research. She's saying something about the dolphins, Dr. Temple interrupted gently. She wants you to remember the dolphins in New Orleans. Ellen felt the blood drain from her face. The dolphin reference was so specific and unexpected that it hit her like a physical blow. Very few people knew about her mother's obsession with a particular dolphin statue they had seen during a trip to New Orleans when Ellen was in her 20s. It had become a private joke between them, and Ellen had never mentioned it publicly. She's also showing me a red purse, Dr. Temple continued, her eyes still unfocused. A small red purse that she carried everywhere. She says you kept it after she passed, and sometimes you still smell her perfume on it. Ellen's composure began to crack as she processed what she was hearing. Her mother Betty had indeed carried a small red purse for the last decade of her life, and Ellen had kept it as one of her most treasured mementos. She had never spoken about it publicly, and the detail about still smelling her mother's perfume was something she had shared with no one. Dr. Temple, how could you possibly know about those things? She says her name is Betty, Dr. Temple continued gently, and she wants you to know that she's incredibly proud of how you've used your platform to spread kindness. She says you got your sense of humor from her, but your compassion you developed on your own. Ellen felt tears beginning to form as she listened to words that sounded exactly like something her mother would say. Betty DeGeneres had indeed been a funny woman, but she had always admired Ellen's empathy and kindness toward others. She's telling me about a conversation you had with her in the hospital, Dr. Temple said, her voice growing more emotional. You made her a promise about something about never letting anyone make you feel small again. Ellen's breath caught in her throat. During her mother's final days, Ellen had indeed made a private promise to live boldly and authentically, never again allowing others to diminish her spirit, as had happened during difficult periods of her career. It was one of the most sacred conversations of Ellen's life. Ellen, she wants you to know that she sees how you've kept that promise. Dr. Temple continued, tears now streaming down her own face. She says watching you live openly and help others do the same has been the greatest gift you could have given her. The studio had fallen completely silent as the audience witnessed this intimate and unprecedented moment. Ellen was openly crying now, overwhelmed by the specificity and emotional accuracy of what she was hearing. Dr. Temple, I don't understand how you could know these things, Ellen said through her tears. She's showing me one more thing, Dr. Temple said gently. A yellow kitchen. She spent a lot of time in a yellow kitchen, and she wants you to remember the conversations you had there while she made coffee? No, tea. She made tea and you two would solve the world's problems together. Ellen completely broke down as this final detail hit her. Her childhood home had indeed featured a bright yellow kitchen where she and her mother had shared countless conversations over cups of tea, discussing everything from Ellen's career dreams to world events. Those morning conversations had been some of Ellen's most cherished memories. "I don't know what to say," Ellen whispered, wiping her eyes. Dr. Temple's expression gradually returned to normal as the intensity of the moment seemed to pass. "Ellen, I know this is overwhelming. Your mother's presence was incredibly strong today, stronger than I usually experience." Ellen turned to address the audience and cameras, struggling to regain her composure. "Folks, I have to be honest with you. I came into this interview as a skeptic. I still don't know how to explain what just happened, but the details Dr. Temple shared, they're things that only my mother and I would have known." She looked back at Dr. Temple with a mixture of gratitude and confusion. "Dr. Temple, what do you think this means? Why would my mother want to communicate today?" "In my experience, spirits often communicate when they sense their loved ones need reassurance or healing," Dr. Temple replied gently. "Perhaps your mother wanted you to know that the love between you continues, and that she's aware of the positive impact you're having on others." Ellen felt a profound shift in her understanding of loss and connection. "Dr. Temple, I've always been someone who believes in what I can see and prove, but what happened here today, I can't explain it away." "Ellen, I don't think the goal is to explain it," Dr. Temple said wisely. "Sometimes the most meaningful experiences are the ones that exist beyond our current understanding. The love you shared with your mother doesn't require scientific validation to be real." Ellen addressed the cameras one final time. "I know many of you watching are probably as skeptical as I was when this segment began. I can't tell you whether psychic communication is real or not, but I can tell you that what I experienced today felt like a gift, a reminder of my mother's love and presence in my life." She looked back at Dr. Temple with deep appreciation. "Thank you for giving me that gift, whether it came from my mother's spirit or from some other source. It's given me a sense of peace I didn't know I needed." 3 months later, Ellen received a letter that surprised her. It was from Dr. Temple, who wrote to share that she had been contacted by dozens of grieving families after Ellen's episode aired, all seeking similar connections with their lost loved ones. "Dear Ellen," the letter read, "your willingness to be vulnerable and open to possibilities beyond your usual beliefs gave comfort to countless people who are struggling with loss. Whether the communication came from your mother's spirit or from some other source of wisdom and love, it served its purpose. It healed hearts and opened minds." Ellen kept that letter as a reminder that sometimes the most profound truths come not from what we can prove, but from what we allow ourselves to feel and experience with open hearts. The episode became one of Ellen's most discussed segments, not because it proved or disproved psychic abilities, but because it showed a rational, skeptical person remaining open to mystery while processing grief and love in real time. "What that day taught me," Ellen reflected months later, "is that love transcends our understanding of life and death. Whether Dr. Temple connected me with my mother's spirit, or simply helped me access memories and feelings I needed to process, the result was the same. I felt my mother's presence and love in a way that brought me peace." 6 months later, Ellen began incorporating brief segments about different approaches to grief and healing into her show, always emphasizing that people should find comfort in whatever beliefs and practices felt authentic to them. "Mom always said that love finds a way," Ellen shared during one of these segments. "Whether that way is through memory, through other people's kindness, or through experiences that defy explanation, love always finds a way to remind us that connection continues beyond physical presence." Because sometimes the most important questions aren't about what we can prove, but about what brings us comfort, healing, and connection to the people who shaped our hearts. And sometimes being open to mystery is the most rational response to the profound experience of love and loss.